and the rally will be the president's 6th since taking office.
More on that coming up. But first, a surprise plea deal in the case of that woman charged with killing her fiancé by tampering with his kayak and letting him drown. For 2 years, she insisted his death was a tragic accident. Now she's pleading guilty to negligent homicide. ABC's Lindsay Davis here with that dramatic new development. Good morning, Lindsay.
Good morning, George. Graswald's trial was set to begin next month. She faced life in prison. But this guilty plea to criminal negligence is essentially a get-out-of-jail-free card. It means she's only agreeing that she failed to perceive a risk. She still maintains this was not an intentional murder.
An emotional Angelika Graswald pleading guilty to negligent homicide Monday.
His kayak took on water and began to sink, correct?
Yes.
The 37-year-old Latvian native had been charged with second-degree murder in the April 2015 death of her fiancé, 46-year-old Vincent Viafore. Prosecutors say that Graswald, who during an 11-hour police interrogation was filmed taking yoga breaks and playing hopscotch, sabotaged Viafore's kayak, removing its plug, causing it to take on water and sink during a trip on the Hudson River Valley.
I don't see him. Oh, my God.
Can you see the kayak still?
No, the kayak went underwater. Oh, my God.
An investigator testified at an earlier hearing that Graswald said she felt trapped by Viafore and wanted to be free, admitting she took his paddle after his kayak capsized in the choppy waters while he begged her to call 911. In court on Monday, Graswald said she knew the plug was not in Viafore's kayak, knew that the weather was dangerous and that he had been drinking and wasn't wearing a life jacket, but she says she did not do anything to intentionally cause his death.
You could tell by her the struggles that she had in the courtroom today, through her plea allocution, that she cared very deeply for Vince. She loved him very much, and never in her wildest dreams did she ever imagine that her conduct would lead to his death.
Police arrested Graswald back in 2015 after that 11-hour interrogation.
Why didn't you have that plug in there?
He didn't have it because I wish I had it. I wanted him dead, and now he's gone. And I'm okay with it.
She later explained her words to ABC's Elizabeth Vargas.
Well, they kept asking me the same questions like 100 times. I knew that I was innocent. It was at my breaking point. I had it. So I just gave them what they wanted.
Graswald is expected to be sentenced in November. She faces 1 to 4 years behind bars, but because she's already served 27 months, she could be released by the end of December, George.
Okay, Lindsay, thanks very much. Let's talk about it now with our legal team, Dan Abrams and Nancy Grace. And Dan, let me begin with you. Every time I hear the term negligent homicide, I think it's a contradiction in terms. So explain what it is and why she would plead guilty to it.
It means you didn't do it on purpose, but that you created a risk that was unjustifiable. That either you did something or didn't do something that led to the person's death. Bottom line is that the reason she took this deal is because it means she's getting out of prison in a matter of months as opposed to risking it for years. The more interesting question is, why did prosecutors offer this deal? And the reason for that is because they had a weak case. Nancy may disagree with me on this, but the reason you don't offer this kind of deal to someone who's facing murder charges unless you are worried you're not going to get a conviction. And in this case, I think it would have been very hard to get a conviction because that videotape you heard, that alleged confession point, it's really taken out of context. When you listen to the full 11 hours, it's nowhere near as incriminating as the clip seems.
I hear you laughing, Nancy. I guess you don't think it's a weak case?
Listen, why don't you just help her go to the bank, Dan Abrams, and cash in for her $250,000 worth of life insurance that this guy had, and she was the beneficiary? How about statements like, I'm glad he's dead. I'm okay with it. It felt good knowing he was going to die. Here's what happened. She took the plug out of the kayak. It was found in the console of her car. While he begged for help, she kicked away his paddle. His kayak went under the choppy waters of the Hudson at about 40 degrees. She waited for him to be underwater 10 minutes. Then 10 minutes later, she called 911, and witnesses saw her intentionally trying to turn over her own kayak so she could pretend that she tried to save him.
How much do you know? How much do you know about kayaks?
She's out singing karaoke.
How much do you know about kayaks, Nancy? Because if you know a lot about them,
I have kayaked many, many times.
All right, good. Well, then you'll know.
So
Great.
yes, I know about kayaks.
Great. Then you'll know that removing that plug will not sink a kayak. That's just not the way it works.
The kayak sunk, Dan. Do you argue that the kayak went underwater? They found it miles and miles away.
All right, let me ask you another question. Have you been in the Hudson River?
It went under.
Have you been in the Hudson River when the weather's really, really bad?
And I have sailed up to, on a boat and a sailboat.
Okay.
Up to Bannerman Island.
One thing has nothing to do with the other. Kayak doesn't sink because of missing plug.
Well, you brought it up,
Kayak sinks because of high winds in Hudson River.
And why, may I ask, did she kick away his paddle?
There's no evidence that she kicked.
Listening, not hearing.
Again, kicked. She didn't. She never admitted to kicking away his paddle. She never admitted to that.
She's charged with tampering with the paddle,
and why
she
do you
said she pushed away the paddle.
And
she said that. It's in her statement.
The reason, no, she did not admit to kicking it away.
Cha-ching.
The reason.
She admitted to pushing it away.
The reason that she is settling this case and the reason that the prosecutors are offering this deal is because they don't have the kind of case you're suggesting.
They're afraid. That's why they're doing it. I never tried a single case that I wasn't afraid I wouldn't get a conviction, but they're afraid a jury will sympathize with her. Come on. She said that she didn't break up with him because she was too spiritual. And if she just broke up with him, he wouldn't truly be gone.
Nancy, the only hard part of my job in this segment is ending it. Thank you both. Robin?
All right, I think, George. Coming up, Johnny Depp accusing his former business managers